In this video, I'll demonstrate how to make a histogram and a scatterplot on some data that you might be looking at in R and RStudio. So let's turn to RStudio, and let's say we've loaded up the MT cars dataset, which is built into R, and we've renamed it as the dataset D, as you can see here in line number 2. So I'll run line number 2, and then in line number 4, I will type hist, I'll type D, $, let me choose the variable mpg for now, and then let me run line number 4. And of course, let me save my work. All right, now this error message is actually a good opportunity. So, anytime you get this particular error message after trying to run a plot, you may need to run the line of code that I'm about to put here in the new line 4, this par-mar code, and that will reset R's plotting ability, so to speak. Let me run line 4. So I've run line 4 in the console. It doesn't give us a reply because there's nothing for it to reply to us, but it ran the command for us. And now let me run line 6 again. And now you can see it worked. It gave us what we wanted, which is a histogram of the variable mpg, which is within the dataset D. So it took all of the values that you can see here in the mpg variable, and it arranged them into a histogram for us. Of course, you can change which variable we make a histogram of. So you can copy and paste line 6 so that you have a copy of it, and then you can look at another variable. Let's choose CYL, and let me run line number 6. And you can see here, CYL, cylinder, has only 3 different values, and this histogram shows them to us here. Another type of graphic that is very useful to us is a scatterplot, and you can make a scatterplot by using the plot command. And what you need to do here, of course, is you need to give it 2 variables, one for the x-axis or the horizontal axis, and another for the y-axis or the vertical axis. So as you can see in this little yellow box that popped up above line 8, we're going to put 2 arguments into the plot function. And those arguments are going to represent what we want it to plot on the x-axis and what we want it to plot on the y-axis. And those arguments are going to be separated by a comma. So let's get started. Let's put on the x-axis a variable like weight, WT, how heavy a car is. Remember, this is a data set for our convenience built into R, in which all of the observations are cars. And then I'll type a comma, and then again $, and I'll get whatever I want to show up on my y-axis. Let's have that be miles per gallon, the fuel efficiency of a car. And let me run line 8. And what we got in line 8 is we got mpg on the y-axis, and we got weight on the x-axis. And you can see there appears to be a pretty strong relationship between these 2 variables. What you see on the screen now changed a little bit because I paused my video recording and I actually restarted RStudio. So I went up here, clicked on the X. I chose not to save any of my work, which I'll explain a little bit later. And then I restarted RStudio and got my code file back up here. Let me again try to run line 8, the plot command. Actually, first I'll have to run line 2 again to reload my data. Now you can see it's appeared down there in the environment, and now I can run line 8. There we go. So this might happen to you sometimes. You might sometimes need to restart RStudio or run this command in line 4. to get things to look correct. Now we also have labels to our charts. So we see that weight and MPG are plotted here, and we can see the relationship between them. So we can see that, for example, this car where my mouse is, this car has a weight of approximately 3.2 tons, and it has an MPG of approximately 16 miles per gallon. Of course, we can also change. Let me, in fact, copy line 8 and paste a copy of it in line 10 so that I have both versions. And then we can change the plots we're making. Let's say on the x-axis, I don't want weight, but instead I want cylinders, CYL. So I changed it there pretty quickly by copying and pasting, and now I'll run it. And now in my bottom right plot viewer, I got a scatter plot of MPG versus cylinder right here. So now let me go ahead and save my work, and let's talk about what we want to do when we close RStudio. So I have my code file saved, as you just saw me do, and that code file is saved on my computer permanently, as long as nothing goes wrong with the computer's storage. When I go to close RStudio, it's going to give me this question. Do I want to save the workspace image? The workspace image question is asking if I want to save everything, other aspects of what I did while I was using R. So you can choose either of these, whichever you prefer. I personally prefer to say don't save. And all I do is that I make sure that I've saved my code file, because as long as I've saved my code file, I can reproduce any of the results that I generated while using R. And then it won't be necessary for me to save the workspace image. But if you prefer to save everything that you've done, you can go ahead and click on Save. So it's up to you, but I prefer to click on Don't Save. Okay, so just to review what we looked at just now, we practiced creating a histogram using this syntax, and we got an output looking like this. We then practiced making a scatter plot using this code, and we got a scatter plot that looked like this. And then we also tried modifying some of our code by copying and pasting it and creating a new scatter plot that showed different variables. And finally, we discussed one possible strategy for closing RStudio on your computer once you're done with your work for a particular day or session.